Sheldon, by the looks of it, obviously an optional here. Guys that are skating, you're going to roll with the same type of lineup here. What does this group kind of need to do right now? We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but finishing those chances. And have you ever seen anything quite like this?
Not for this period of time. Obviously, I've with our players, you expect them to shoot a higher rate, but you just got to keep with it and keep finding ways to generate the chances and have greater frequency of them. But the biggest thing for me is just our overall game. We've got to be able to stay with it and maintain it for 3 periods. I like our first period again, but we generated a couple of really good looks off of the rush, which was something we really wanted to do better. I thought we did that. We just weren't able to stay with it and sustain it for 3 periods. So that's something we've got to do a better job of. We talked about it again this morning, but it's one of these things. We've been at it for too long now, like this, but. When you don't score and you don't play with leads and you don't win games, you can start to analyze things 100 different ways. And sometimes you overthink it. You just got to continue to embrace the process and trust that it'll work and trust that the goals will come, and then your game starts to come. But I didn't hate our game last night. Just didn't like that we weren't able to sustain it for 3 periods. Whether it's a mental or physical thing. We just got to stay with it, and special teams were excellent, goaltending was excellent, so we just got to find a way to get that goal. Whether it's on the power play or the penalty kill or 5-on-5, that can take us a long way, I believe.
You mentioned the rush game there. It's something that you said over the break. Partially, something that you really looked at. What did you sort of see maybe that was different from your group to maybe generate those things, or is it just a matter of the way the game unfolded, right?
I think we look at the couple of chances. You look at Lenny's chance coming off the pass from Nemo. You look at the one-timer from Nico coming off the play from Mercer and Timo. You look at just overall how much more involved our defense was in giving us the extra numbers coming up the ice. Not always leading to chances, but getting extra entries and touches and all that kind of stuff. I thought we did a better job of that. Not where we want it to be. We showed them some examples this morning where we can do a better job of winning races up the ice. But there's other parts of it. You can't just rely on a rush game. You got especially when you're down in the 3rd period, the other team's not going to give you those opportunities. They're going to have 4 and 5 people back consistently. So you got to find other ways, to generate momentum and scoring chances that way without sacrificing structure. Which is what I thought we did, and have done it too often in the 3rd periods.
So it was part of that, intentional decision making when you're talking about your defense kind of activating that way.
Yeah, so we're trying to create more numerical advantages offensively. That's something that we talk about a lot, just creating numerical advantages on both sides of the puck, defensively so we can be aggressive and close quickly, offensively so we can strike and make plays. So a lot of that has to come through the defense, giving you the extra numbers up the ice. So having them to be a little bit quicker to jump onto offense. We don't have a lot of guys where that's their go-to or their first instinct, but we've got to continue to push on that, because I think that can unlock some things for us.
Sheldon, the penalty kill has been doing an excellent job for you guys as of late. What are some of the details that you're really liking? Whether it's from the defensemen, from the forwards, whether it's tracking back, the blue line. Just maybe explain what you're seeing that you're liking.
Yeah, I think the guys have just found some real consistency, and it's hard to use that word when we took 3 weeks off in between, but. Shazi in his meeting yesterday with the guys was to say, let's get back to it. We were doing some good things. We had a couple games, towards the end, just before the break, that we gave some stuff up, but we were going really well. I think just the way the guys are pressuring the pucks, their reads, their sticks, and their checking, we're getting some clears really well, and then we're generating offense and striking and getting opportunities the other way too. So, yeah, there's lots to like about the penalty kill for a good chunk of time now. If you look before the break, I thought we carried that into yesterday, which you're not quite sure how that's going to go. Penalty kill is a difficult thing to practice and get your proper reps at. In a practice setting, you need to play the games. but I thought they did a good job, and that's what's disappointing. Obviously, that we're not getting rewarded for some of these things, but there's no choice but to just stay with it.
Would you say the same thing with the power play last game? Did you like the looks that you had?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to create more. I think some of our entries, that's an area that we've got to do better is our entries and get established and get more zone time. But you look back at it from the scoring chances that we generated. We generated a few pretty good looks. Brader's in alone. Brownie has one, right at the crease. There was a down in between Gritzik and Mercer. That was a good look for us, and I believe that was the first period. So there's some looks there. Dougie had a couple good shots. I think that there's some things there, but you got to convert. You got to make good on it. So that's the next piece. But the process, I think, has been good. Just have to stay with it. And then 5-on-5, as I'm saying, it's kind of similar. Our first periods have been really good for, let's go back as far as 10 games now. Our first periods have been really good. Put ourselves in a spot to take control of the game, but you got to be able to execute on offense to take hold, and if you don't, well, then your game's got to be really tight and consistent and finish it through 60 minutes.
You mentioned the mental part of the game. Like, how big is that a part of the game, and is there anything that you could do with that part of the game too?
Well, that's the tricky part for sure, because you're a team that, has we got a lot of guys that, that their game offensively drives their confidence, and the scoring and goals haven't been there, so that, all of a sudden you're not as confident and feeling it the same way. So the longer the game goes on, it's a little bit of, here we go again. So that you got to kind of fight, but just there's nothing you can do except to stay with it, believe. The practice time we get, take advantage of it. I actually thought our practices leading up to last night's game, I thought were excellent. We were scoring goals, making plays, and felt good. And thought we carried that into the first period. But as fatigue sets in and different things happen over the course of the game, we've got to be able to maintain that. But I showed the guys a lot of really good clips this morning, and let's just stay with it, and find a way to get those pucks over the line.
Pardon me if you've been asked this already. I was just wondering, normally in a second of back-to-backs you'd think, the Penguins would have the advantage, but since you have the long layoff, is it an advantage for you guys to have gotten a game under your belts, do you think?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, obviously there's, it's tough traveling in and all those kind of things, but yeah, I hope that we got the dust off. We got to address some things this morning that, like I talked about, what ends up happening over the course of a break is you watch, you can kind of watch the same clips, and you're trying to make some adjustments in your game to be able to then apply it to actual game setting, and then talk about it the next day and regroup. I think there's a potential advantage there that can maybe overcome the extra energy and juice that the team you're playing will have and playing on home ice, but that remains to be seen when the puck drops. We'll try to use it as an advantage psychologically as best we can.
When the Olympics came through last time, first game back was Ryan Miller here in Pittsburgh. You got a huge ovation, even though he's on the opposing bench. I guess, how has Jack been, the limited time that you've been around him since you came back from Milan, handling all this, and what do you say to him to prepare for every American city he goes into after? Because something like that is probably going to happen at some point tonight, too.
Yeah, I think Jack's handled it incredibly well. I thought he was really gracious and just classy with how he handled it yesterday. I don't care who you are. You get out there, and they hand you a microphone. You're a hockey player, and you're standing on the ice. All you guys might be great with a microphone in your hand, but that's tough. And I thought he nailed it. And so I think he's ready for this. Like to believe that things don't come your way that you're not able to handle. I think it comes to him for a reason, and he's earned it. But it just kind of goes with it. I mean, I checked in with him this morning. How you doing? His response, his body feels good. I just need some sleep. That's kind of it. And traveling in late night again last night is not ideal, but I think he's handling it as best he can. And I think more than anything, hockey is what he does best. So the fact that there's not a whole lot of time to think about it and just play the games, I think can be helpful for him. But we've got to get him some rest, no question.